Welcome to Valley Grove Baptist Church, located at 1731 South, U.S. Highway 281 in Stephenville, Texas. We are glad you joined us for our 10:30 Sunday morning worship service. If you'd like to learn more about Valley Grove, please check us out at our website at valleygrove.net. Now, join us for the morning worship service already in progress.
There's one thing I desire, one thing I see. I you, abide you, yours from you to keep. You prepare a table for me, you're my portion and my cup. You are the source of strength. You fill me up, you are my shepherd in the wilderness. Whom shall I fear? You are the God who goes before me, my rock and my shield. In troubled times you will provide, and I shall not want. You are my God. Though I walk through the valley of death, I will magnify and glorify you with every breath. When the waves stand against me, I will follow where you lead. You are the truth and the way. A lamp unto my feet. You are my shepherd in the wilderness. Whom shall I fear? You are the God who goes before me, my rock and my shield. In troubled times you will provide, and I shall not want. You are my God. So I'll be of good courage, for you overcome. You will not forsake me, so I'll wait upon you, Lord. I will be of good courage, for you will overcome. You will not forsake me, so I'll wait upon you, Lord. You are my shepherd in the wilderness. Whom shall I fear? You are the God who goes before me, my rock and my shield. In troubled times you will provide, and I shall not want. You are my God. You are a shepherd in the wilderness. Whom shall I fear? You are the God who goes before me, my rock and my shield. In troubled times you will provide, and I shall not want. You are my God. You are my God. You are my God. If you remember whenever we started this sermon series on 1 Corinthians, one of the things that we took a look at early on was Paul, who's always known as the missionary to the Gentiles, but see that he was really much more than that. Paul has an incredible pastor's heart. We talked a lot about that. In fact, really what we see a lot with Paul is a great church planter. Because church planters have to be well-versed in so many things. They've got to be evangelists as they are going out and sharing the gospel with many that have never heard. And so Paul is a great evangelist. But we also see that Paul is great at teaching the church.
He teaches the church doctrine. He teaches the church church discipline. He teaches the church in very practical ways of just living out faith, and both individually and as families and as a community of believers. And so we see with Paul, he's coming to the end of his letter, and it almost has this abrupt change. He had these few chapters on the resurrection, and we finished up with chapter 15 last Sunday. And then we come to this, and then Paul says, "Whoop, stop, finally, I'm getting to the end." But it's not over, because he has some incredible words. He's still teaching, and it's very practical. And so we're going to go through chapter 16, 1 Corinthians chapter 16 today, as we close out this series. We're going to hear some very practical truth, godly truth, that Paul is going to share with the church at Corinth and with us today. Now, I want you to hear it from that. It's from a pastor's heart that loves this church and he spent a great amount of time in. This church that he helped to build up, that God did amazing things through them. And so he continues to teach and lead this. We're going to do a little different style. It's going to be more or less like a Bible study style. Somewhat like we do on Wednesday nights, a little mix between that and the sermon. But let's hear these words from a pastor's heart as we begin this morning. Gracious Father, we thank you for your word and your truth. And Father, that you teach us, that you care enough about us, Father, to want us to know your ways, which are good and right and true in the blessed way. And so, Father, help us to hear your truth being spoken to us today. And Father, as Paul strove to teach the church at Corinth, Father, we also know that these words of truth are for us today. And so, Father, we pray that we hear them with open ears. We pray, Father, that your Holy Spirit is the only influence here. We ask, Father, that our minds be full of soul to receive your truth, to let it take root, to let it bear fruit in our lives, Father. So come, Lord Jesus. Teach us, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Have your Bibles. Turn with me, 1 Corinthians chapter 16. We're going to kind of walk through it, a few verses at a time, and pause along the way to see what it is that God is wanting to tell us. So we're going to cover a variety of subjects, a variety of topics, but I think some wonderful truth to be revealed to us today. So, let's begin with the first four verses. 1 Corinthians 16, verses 1 through 4. Follow along as I read. Paul says this, "Now about the collection for God's people. Do what I told the Galatian churches to do. On the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with his income, saving it up so that when I come, no collection will have to be made. Then, when I arrive, I will give letters of introduction to the men you approve and send them with your gift to Jerusalem. And if it seems advisable for me to go also, I too will accompany them, or they will accompany me." Now Paul gives a great deal about giving here in these few verses. And I want us to kind of break that down and see. First of all, he begins with the words "now about." What does that tell us? That tells us this has been part of the conversation. You know, many times in church, people may feel uncomfortable talking about money, or they don't. But listen, Paul was very practical in this. He said, listen, money is a big part of our lives. Okay? And that commerce and how we interact with one another through it also speaks a great deal about how we live out our faith. And so he says, now about the collection. In other words, this is something they had talked about before, and he's bringing it up again and giving further instructions, giving further details, but it's not a subject they avoided. And it shouldn't be a subject that we avoid either. Have some taken it too far, or have some taken it in the wrong direction? Absolutely. But that shouldn't negate us looking at it from a proper perspective, from a godly perspective. And so Paul says, listen to something we've talked about before. Now again, let me give you further instruction. And so it's good and right for us to address such issues. Paul says then that we're going to take a collection for God's people. There were believers that were struggling. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. But this is a collection that we're taking to benefit other believers. And so this reminds us of that community as we live and struggle in life together that God has given us here for one another. He says that he'd given further instructions to the Galatian churches. In other words, it wasn't just to the church in Corinth that he was speaking about collecting this. He'd been preaching about this or speaking about it, teaching about it everywhere he went. So what we see is that all the churches coming together, cooperating with one another, and collectively doing more together than they could do any one individual church. Now, as Baptists, I think we've got a great understanding of this. We don't always work the best with one another, but we strive to do so, and we cooperate together. In fact, the cooperative program that we talk about as Texas Baptist is there for us as churches to do collectively what we can't do individually. And so we send a portion of our receipts each month and each year to Texas Baptist and to the Southern Baptist as we strive to come together supporting missionary efforts, supporting schools, supporting orphans, supporting hospitals, and a variety of other ministries, church plants, and on. Because we can do things collectively. We can't do individually. Paul says that on the first day of the week, we are to receive this collection. You know what the first day of the week is? It's today. It's Sunday. The Sabbath, for the Jewish people, that was Saturday. That was the end of the week. And Sunday marked the first day of the week. And that was a time that the Christian church had met. That was the Lord's Day. That was the day of the week that Christ rose from the grave. And so that was the day that they chose to gather in celebration and worship. That was their Sabbath day. Okay? Others may observe a different day, and Paul says, listen, on that, be gracious on it. But we see that they met on that Sunday, on the first day of the week. And he says that every week they are to bring in collections. Every week they are to gather sums for this gift, for this offering. Why every week? Well, it was general that many of those in those days got paid each day. They got paid at the end of each day. And so in a week's time, they had those collections, and they were to set that aside actually in their homes and bring it in on that Sunday. But the understanding that this is part of our life. If they waited till the end of the month, most likely then they would have had things coming their way each and every day, each and every week over the time. And so Paul said, listen, it's very practical truth. It's a practical set of wisdom to understand that this is how we do it each and every week. Bring some that we set aside in offering and in tithes, because this is a way that helps us in our humanity to keep it in front of us and to manage it and do it well. He tells them that they were to give in keeping with their income. In other words, it was to be a proportionate offering. It wasn't that it was a flat offering that each and every one was to give a certain amount, but it was that each and every one would share in the sacrifice. Each and every one would give proportionate to the blessings that God had bestowed upon them in their work. Paul wanted the gifts to be gathered up, because he knew that as they gave some along the way, they would be able to collect more than if they would at just any one time and having that one certain love offering when he came. Well, what do we see in Paul's teaching? We see Paul affirming the teachings not only of Christ, but of God's Word throughout Scripture. That giving is a part of who we are. Giving is an expression of who we are, created in God's image. God is a giving God. Amen? God is a generous God. And God expects us as His people and His followers to do the same. We do realize, or we should realize, that the tithes and offerings time is not for us to give back to God, because God needs the gifts that we are giving. God asks us to give because it is a benefit, first and foremost, to us. But because it helps us keep worldly possessions and materialistic thinking in right perspective. Because if we can keep it all to ourselves, we lose this stewardship mentality that is right. Psalm 24:1, the Lord reminds us that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it and everyone in it. And so it keeps us in right perspective, but it also helps us then to maintain and to develop that gift of generosity, which reflects the generosity of our God. And so Paul is teaching the church there at Corinth, be a generous church. Be purposefully generous. Not in just a one-time gift, but be purposeful in your generosity, that you're collecting it over time because you know the blessing that it will be. So as Hurricane Dorian prepares to slam the East Coast, you can't help but think back to Hurricane Harvey, probably the last major hurricane that hit the United States. And in that time, many of you that were here, you'll know and remember this, but those that weren't here, I'll share with you that God laid on our hearts to participate, and I think a very and it has impacted Valley Grove in a very powerful way. The church in Corinth probably didn't know many of the people that they would be assisting in Jerusalem. There may have been some that fled in the persecution time and that ended up in Corinth, but for the most part, the church in Corinth was of new believers that had come to Christ there during Paul's time. They had come out of the pagan world and everything, and so we see a lot of that in his teachings. He's not addressing a lot of the Jewish to Christian issues. He's addressing this of these Christians, these new believers that have come out of pagan life. So there's probably not a real strong connection of the church in Corinth down in Jerusalem. But Paul had been teaching them, hey, listen, we are the body of Christ. All believers around the world are part of the family of God and the body of Christ. And so there is that spiritual connection by the bond of Christ that is more powerful than any other connection that we can have. And so out of this connection with Christ, out of this love, they were generous in their offerings towards believers in Jerusalem that were struggling. Great famine and great persecution, and they were struggling, and they needed that help. So they had that connection. I thought a great deal of that connection and the connection that we had with the church at Eden. You know, for the most part, there was no connection to the church at Eden. Now, a few from here have family that are there, but very, very few. And so, but God laid this need on our heart. And there was a church that was on the front line of the hurricane relief effort in that area. And so God led us as a church to pour in down there at Nederland and then also at Rockport, together almost $55,000 just of our funds. And we said, you know what, God has blessed us here. We want to bless you there. And church, I want to tell you, that was an incredible act of faith. That's basically, 10% of our annual budget. And God led us to do that, and we acted in faith in doing that. That's a significant portion. But I want to tell you that because of that generosity, I believe God has increased even more His generosity towards us. I believe the generous spirit that God pours out on us and the way He blesses us in resources of all kinds and opportunities of all kinds comes directly from stepping out in faith in that way. And as we are a generous people in the example of God, God is a generous God. And He will bless His children in their faithfulness in that. And I believe that's what Paul is teaching the church of Corinth. Be generous because I'm a generous God. And in your generosity that reflects my generosity, understand I will watch over my children. Church, I believe that the steps of faith that we have done in the past, we continue to live in the blessings of those things. And I tell you this, we better not stop. We must continue to be a generous people, generous in our time, in our giving, in our prayers, in all of our resources, because that's what God has poured them into us for, that our cups may overflow and spill out onto the world around us and in all the places He gives us the opportunity to influence. Amen? Paul was teaching the church to be generous, even with the people that they didn't know well, but they were bound by Christ. And so their generosity continued. God teaches us to be generous in our giving. For some, the idea of a tithe is a mind-blowing amount. But understand that there's a reason that God set this as a bar of example. Because in there, it causes us to go from I am returning a portion to I am giving back in thankful generosity for the ways that God has poured out on me. Church, I believe God calls us to have that thankful generosity and continue in that. Paul taught the church of Corinth to be that way. And it still counts for us today that we continue to do that purposefully, proportionally, and generously. And I believe God blesses in one of you. Paul continues. Pick up in verse 5. Okay? He's going to instruct them about giving. Now he's going to instruct them about following God's lead. He says, after I go to Macedonia, I will come to you. For I am going through Macedonia. Perhaps I will stay with you for a while, even spend the winter, that you can help me on my journey or wherever I go. I do not want to see you now and make it only a passing visit. I hope to spend some time with you if the Lord permits. He said, I'll stay in Ephesus until Pentecost. A great door, a great opportunity for effective work has been opened to me there. And while there are many who have opposed. Paul is talking about the plans that he has, and he's sharing them with the church of Corinth. But there in the very middle, he says these most important words. He says there, if the Lord permits. Paul is sharing his plans, but he's also doing so with the understanding of, listen, church, this is what I Listen, why do you say today or tomorrow I'm going to go here or there, or I'm going to go over here tomorrow and make these plans for a trip? He said, what we should say is if the Lord allows, if it is God's will. Paul here is helping the church understand, yes, I have plans, but they're always subject to God. Church, we too must have that statement of faith and that understanding for us. It is not, Lord, here are our plans, come bless them. It must be, Lord, what are your plans? Let us know them. Knowing them, give us the faith to follow them. Because, Lord, we know that that is what is true and right and best. I believe God has shown us that over these past years in a very powerful way. About 4.5 years ago or so, we began this 2020 vision. And it began with a prayer. Lord, how do you see using Valley Grove to reach the world? When you look through Valley Grove to reach the world, what do you see? That's what we want to know. And that's what we want to do. Church, that's got to be our continued prayer. We've got to continue to pray and see, Lord, what is your will? What are your plans? What is it that you want us to do? The moment we become comfortable with our strength and being able to accomplish everything within our abilities is the moment that we quit depending on God and seeking His plan, and we start to move back. Church, we've got to continue to seek His will and His plans. That's what Paul was teaching the church in Corinth. I have plans if the Lord wills it. If that's His guidance. If not, then we'll change and we'll follow what He's got. That must be ours too, that we must follow His plans for our lives. He changes gears a little bit in verse 10. Follow there along with me. He says, if Timothy comes to see you, if Timothy comes, see to it that he has nothing to fear while he's with you, for he is carrying on the work of the Lord just as I am. No one then should refuse to accept him. Send him on his way in peace, so he may return to me, and I am expecting him along with the brother. Now that may seem like some odd sentences in there, but let's give a little bit of understanding. When Paul first arrived there in Corinth, he wasn't well received. Paul had to work really hard to be received by the people there in Corinth. And as he taught the truth and as they received the gospel message, obviously they warmed to him. Timothy was a young minister. He had been with Paul and he had Paul's confidence. But as Paul was sending him through Macedonia and down to Corinth, he remembered that reception that he had. And he didn't want Timothy to encounter that as he got there. And so he's telling the church, receive him well. Receive him well because he's a fellow minister of the gospel. Receive him well and send him on his way, blessed and prepared and in peace to go where God leads him next. Because he's a fellow minister of God. He's got a job to do. Paul goes on to talk about Apollos and Apollos coming. And Apollos has a job to do as well, and he'll get there when he can. Paul's helping them understand that God has a place for them, and as Timothy, this outsider to them in a way, comes to them to receive him. Because he has a job to do. He has a ministry to fulfill. He has things to serve. It also reminds us, each and every one, that we have a part to do. We have a place to serve. And we too are called to fulfill that purpose and to serve in that way. In all of our goings, we too are to look to serve the Lord wherever He takes us and whatever it is He calls us to do. What's your point of service? In Valley Grove Baptist Church, what is God leading you to do in service of the kingdom, in service of Him? Because He's given each one of us opportunities to serve. Either we're looking for them and seeking to fulfill them, or we're closing our eyes to them, but each one of us have a place to serve and a part to fulfill. We may not think much of it, but God knows. I want to show you a little picture that went viral this week. I don't think that was the intention. I think what it was an incredible act of godly kindness and love that was unexpected, and yet when people see God's love, it is overwhelming. The young man in the blue backpack is named Christian. The young man with the green lunchbox is named Connor. Now, Connor was very upset on his first day of school, and he's standing over there crying as his parents have left, and he's fixing to walk in to the schoolhouse. Christian doesn't know Connor, but he knows that he's upset, and so he goes over there and he takes him by the hand, and he walks him into the school, and he's made a new friend, and he's given comfort to someone that he never met. Why? What Christian didn't know was that Connor also struggles with autism. And so that was an even more stressful situation. And yet, the comforting hand of Christian to Connors calmed him and made his first day incredibly special. Those kinds of acts of kindness, maybe even when we're not expecting them, but God puts them in our paths as opportunities, as doors to show the love of God to someone in need, are ones that we are called to fulfill. We are called to serve. We are called to be God's representative in the world, in all kinds of times, in all kinds of places. Paul said, receive Timothy because he's a fellow minister. I tell you, you are fellow ministers. Seek the places that God has us to engage. And engage them to the glory of God and to the blessings of others. Paul kind of has this little interlude that he's pretty well known for as he closes things. Look at verses 13 and 14. He's given these wonderful practical instructions, and then all of a sudden it's like a lightning bolt that hits him, and he shares this. He says, be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be men and women of courage, be strong, and do everything in love. It's like Paul is reminding us, listen, as you serve, as you do, as you give, remember the enemy is always on the prowl. So be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. The enemy is always trying to oppose us, and the moment that we forget that is the moment that we crack the door open for him to tempt us in greater ways, for him to harm us and knock us off track. The moment we step back from purposefully living out our faith is the moment where we give him more room to have influence on our lives. And so Paul says, always be on your guard. Never let your guard down, because the enemy will seek to take any advantage that he can. He closes out in verses 21 through 24 with some words that may strike us as harsh, but let me give some understanding. Paul says, I write this greeting in my own hand. See, it was Paul's custom. Paul was a man of advanced years, and so it was his custom that he probably dictated most of the letters that we had. He had a secretary that would transcribe or would write as he directed. And then Paul, kind of as an authentication, would then write in his own hand a short reading or short prayer or something like that towards the end of a letter. So that's customary for Paul. And so as Paul says, I write this greeting in my own hand, kind of an authentication there. Verse 22, he says this, if anyone does not love the Lord, a curse be upon him, come, O Lord. Now that may seem harsh. Why would Paul express such words? Now remember, he's writing to the church. He's being very forthright with them. He's been very pastoral with them. And what he's saying to them is this: time is short. We don't have time to play games. Life goes by in the blink of an eye. And if you sit there in the church pews and it's just a place to feel that the love for the Lord is not with you, then he says, I ask that the discipline of the Lord be upon you, so that it bring you back into that relationship, because the time is short. And we need to be active, and we need to work together. Lord is going to come, and he's going to come quickly, and either we're ready or we're not. But he says, I don't want followers of Christ to be sitting still. I want them to be active. I want them to be moving forward, seeking God's will and fulfilling the purpose that he has for us. And if that's not the case, then that needs to change. And that reconciliation with God needs to happen, because God has things he needs us, wants us to do. Paul closes with some very loving words. The grace of the Lord Jesus be with you. My love to all of you in Christ Jesus. Amen. Paul had a pastor's heart. He was tough when he needed to be tough. Loving and kind when he needed to be loving and kind. A teacher, an encourager, most of all, fellow believer in Christ, that says we understand we're only here because of the grace of Jesus Christ. But because of that, we're called to live out that grace and love and all the opportunity God gives us. Church, it has been amazing past few years. God has led us we can't stop. Slow down. We've got to seek, continue to seek what God has for us, and follow it through by faith.